What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show, part of the All-City Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, live from a hotel room near you, Tim Legler. Legs, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? I'm good, man. I was, I was looking forward to a great response out of the Mavericks last night. It was better, but Adam, they're in trouble, man. 4 out of 5 now. It looks a little bit daunting. You know, if you're the road team, I mean, it's just imperative you get that split. And I felt like Dallas had an opportunity last night that they did not capitalize on. And in large part to, I think, some of the failures of their own players, because they did enough. They did enough defensively, and Boston contributed by missing a lot of shots. They missed. I don't think all that was Dallas's defense, by the way. Boston didn't play great, and you had an opportunity on the road in a game in the fourth quarter that on a night when Boston didn't play well. I felt like to really have a chance to win the series, Dallas needed to get that game.
Wow. Well, setting the table already for a little bit of a dark show if you're a Mavs fan, but a bright one if you're a Celtics fan. That being said, the games have been close, and there is a lot of room for Dallas to improve. A lot of players who have been a no-show so far who can be better. So we're going to break all of that down, what went wrong in this game and what is still ahead in this series throughout the show. But first, All-NBA is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Okay, Celtics get the win, 105-98. Unlike game one, there was no big pull-away moment for either team. There wasn't the run like in game one where the Celtics put this away and that textured the whole game. It was close. Teams made their runs, but both teams were in it. The run actually came for Boston in the fourth quarter where they opened up a big lead, and then Dallas closed it late. I actually thought the game was over. Then Dallas made an incredible, I think, 9-0 run in the final minutes. Even got a fast break layup for PJ Washington in the final minute. That would have made it a one-possession game. Could have got really interesting. Boston made defensive plays all night, the ones that they needed, including on that fast break, and they put it away. So, Legs, what's the top story in your opinion? Where do you want to start as we break this game down?
Well, I'm going to start with a person that says, Tim Legler fan. Legler, do you regret your Mavs in 5 choice now? So I don't know where you got Mavs in 5. I said Mavs in 7, but I did pick them to win the series. I did pick them to win the series. I picked them in 7 games. I thought Luka on the road in a game 7 would be the guy I trust the most. I don't know they're going to get to a game 7 the way things look right now. There's a lot of places to start. We'll start with Dallas because I think that across the board, and this is going to be the question, Adam. How much are you going to attribute to Boston causing all of these issues with the different players on Dallas's roster, and how much of it is just some of those guys? I think it's a combination of the two. I think it's almost always a combination of the two. This isn't all about Boston. That doesn't completely explain the way Kyrie Irving has played. That doesn't completely explain the number of good-looking threes that their role players have had that haven't gone in. It doesn't explain that Derek Lively, I think, looks like this is a little bit too big for him. That has nothing to do with Boston. That is more to do with those guys individually. Make shots if you're a role player, if you get a look. Kyrie, I think, is indecisive. I don't think he's been as sure of himself or as confident as himself as he needs to be. Some of that is attributed to the length and size on him, but I've never seen Kyrie Irving really bottled up to this extent when he's had opportunities with space and a live handle, because he just doesn't look like he's getting where he wants to go, and none of it looks in rhythm. So a lot of that, I think, is on Dallas. It's on their individuals. It's on their team. It's on, I think, the way that they're attacking offensively. And they're so far below their best level that I saw over the last few months. That's the big question as we sit here going into game 3 are they going to grab that extra space that they haven't filled? Are they going to grab that? Or is this going to be mostly about Boston and not letting them get a hold of those things, not letting these guys inject themselves into the series to that extent. Because the whole series is going to come down to game 3, whether or not we're going to have a long series. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure as I sit here right now that I'm confident at all that Dallas is going to win 4 out of 5 games against a team this good. I thought they could get a split in the first 2, which could set up the scenario that I thought could happen. They didn't get it done last night, Adam, and that's a game that I felt like was there for them based on the way Boston shot the ball. You've got to get them on a night that they play like that offensively, and they weren't able to do it because there's just too many guys right now collectively that are playing below what they have looked like at their best in the playoffs.
We're going to spend a lot of the show talking about that because whenever you're analyzing a series, the most interesting thing is, okay, the team that's down, how do they get back into it? So it's just the nature of the texture of how you want to break down a series. But I have to start, I almost disagree with you. It sounds like a little bit. I give Boston an enormous amount of credit just because watching them these 2 games, they have looked so impressive in their decisiveness on offense. One of the things I thought about them is they can get a little stagnant. You can lure them into jump shooting and you can lure them into getting a little stagnant. They were so deliberate at attacking the rim last night against a team that typically provides great rim protection. And to me, those are the types of things that stand out to me. When a team says, no, they want us to settle for this. We're not going to do it. We're going to attack the rim. And I'll give you a number here. They shot in game 2, the Celtics, 74.1% at the rim on 27 shots. That is a huge outlier for what Dallas allows, both in attempts and in percentage. And on top of that, they kept drawing fouls at the rim. So to me, that was one of the main stories here is Boston came into that game saying, we're just going to attack them. We're going to keep attacking 4 or 5 drives per possession, drive, kick, drive, kick, drive, kick. And I just thought that it was such a deliberate and like a plan. They came into the game knowing they were going to do that and they executed it. And I just think it wore Dallas down over time. So what do you think of that part of it? That just their ability to get to the rim off of dribble drives?
Well, Boston's offense is a different conversation than what I started out with because I was talking all about Dallas's offense and their players.
Gotcha.
Kyrie, their shot making amongst the role players. So, Derek Lively, he looks almost like intimidated to me. And that it's not the guy that we saw all year. And I'm not even talking about the fact that he's not getting lob dunks. That part of that's Boston's defense and the length of Porzingis and the way that they're playing Luka has contributed to that. But there's been other plays where the ball has gone straight through his hands, whether it's on a rebound or Luka threw one ahead to him last night where he had Derrick White back there sort of pinned on an early seal and the ball was thrown high enough for him to grab. He goes up and he fumbles the ball. It goes out of bounds. He doesn't look at all comfortable or confident. So that's what I was talking about earlier. There's no doubt that Boston offensively, the way that they're playing and the way that they're going to continue to play, I think it's going to continue to cause Dallas problems. Their inability to contain the basketball for Dallas, that's a big, big problem, I think, going forward. That's a personnel issue. I do think that some of their body positioning on their closeouts and the way that they've played some of the ISOs hasn't been very good. So it's more than just lateral foot speed or personnel or whatever it may be. There's also, I think, adjustments that they can make to be able to contain them better. But the way Boston has moved the ball after the penetration, Adam, has been sensational. Their possessions look far different than Dallas's possessions. Dallas's possessions are high ball screen or ISO, and then that first pass is expected to be a shot or another guy going into an ISO if it's Kyrie. Boston's is in the lane, wait for the rotation to come. Rotation comes. Usually it's an overreaction because the guy got beat so badly off the dribble. Then it's kicked out, and then it's around the horn, 2 or 3 passes, and it leads to a decent look. There's no doubt. I've been very impressed with the way Boston has played, even though they haven't made as many shots as they normally do. Their style of play offensively and their ability to beat their guy off the dribble, whoever that may be, that's a massive factor in this series. And I don't know that that's going to be any different. And if it's not going to be different, and let's just say Boston shoots the way they have shot, then where does Dallas find a way to win a game or win multiple games? They've got to be better offensively. It's more about that to me for Dallas to get back in the series than any dramatic change they're going to have to how they guard Boston, because Boston has just got great versatility. They've got great unselfishness on this team. They seem to always make the pass that needs to be made at the right time. And then for Dallas, it's kind of like keep your fingers crossed they miss some shots, which they have in 2 games. And Dallas is so bad offensively, they haven't been able to capitalize.
Well, real quick, is the dog agreeing with you or disagreeing with you, Legs? Is he upset at your take, or is he like, man, you are cooking?
Actually, my dog is upset with the maid that's knocking on my door, even though there's a do not disturb sign on the door. So what that's about, I don't know. Right? I've already told them a late checkout so I can do this podcast. There's no need to be knocking on the door. That is my road dog, my best friend, and my guard dog all at the same time.
All right. Well, he had some good takes as well in there, so we gotta give him credit as well. Now, to your point, this was a 98-105 game. You know, this was a good defensive battle, and I actually thought Dallas's defense was better in game 2 than it was in game 1. And yes, Boston missed some shots, and I was very impressed with their process. But you're right that to me, this is about Dallas not getting to 100 points. You know, Dallas struggling offensively. So if we go to that side, Luka has 32 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. He came out just like we talked about in our last show. We expected Luka to come out aggressive and to be effective, and he actually was in that first quarter. But the thing that seems to be slowing them down, well, I guess we can go to Kyrie. I think it's Kyrie, Lively, and one other creator they need. Those are the 3 things I look at. But let's start with Kyrie. 7 of 18, 0 of 3 from the three-point line. Does he have a 3? Did he have a 3 in game 1? I don't remember. If he might have had one.
You know, it's funny. I forgot to check too, but we posted a graphic this morning on Get Up when I did the show that said he's 0 for 8 on contested threes. But I don't know if that meant did he make one in the first game? I don't remember.
I can't remember either, to be honest with you. But he had wide open ones in the first game too that he missed. But in this one, I can't tell what's going on with him. There is great defense. You're talking about some of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, but you use the word decisive, and I agree. Something about him seems indecisive at a time when, or in a series when, decisiveness to me is going to be such an important thing for him. Luka has so much attention. They're staying home in the corners. They're protecting the rim. That in between space is Kyrie's music. That's where he needs to operate, and he seems so uncomfortable. So what is it that Boston's having success with him?
Yeah, look, this is where I think when I talk about the difference between it being on the player and what Boston's doing to them, I think people that now want to just act like he's never seen this kind of length. Are you serious? Look what he did in the Minnesota series. Right. Look at that team. That's the best defensive team in the NBA. Kyrie Irving has seen bigger defenders his entire career, his entire life. The guy's 6'1". He's always looking at bigger guys. So it's not the fact that he's being guarded by, Tatum or Brown or White, primarily the 3 bigger guys. Jrue's also bigger. It's not as much that. Even when he's had opportunities to go against Peyton Pritchard, he hasn't converted those. When he's gotten switches with a big on him where he can get those guys to dance usually and get them to back up and get into a step back, he's not making that shot. He had it last night against Kristaps Porzingis. He did a great job creating the space, and then he misses the shot. He's overthinking his moves, in my opinion, when he's getting these situations, because I feel like he has had great space. When he has had opportunities to go one-on-one with his dribble in an isolation situation, he's not playing in a crowd like Luka is a lot. He's got a lot of room, and he's overthinking what he wants to do to get into his shot. And I think when he watches the film, he's going to see that about himself. Now, the question is going to be, I said going into last night, I'd be shocked if he had another bad game, because it's just not who Kyrie Irving is. He typically has he's not going to have back-to-back bad games on a stage like this, because I don't think there's nothing about me that says this has anything to do with pressure or any of that stuff. He's way past that point. He's proven that he can play under those circumstances. I just don't think he is getting into his move quick enough where he's in rhythm. And it's maybe one counter move too many, one dribble too many. And I think he's going to see that on the film. And let's see if he can have the same approach that he had in game 1 of the Minnesota series, which I loved that Kyrie Irving. First quarter, running around, coming off down screens, catching the ball with a full speed off a dribble handoff, getting into his action before a longer defender had a chance to just get in front of him and now muscle him or belong against him. You have to make those guys do the work beforehand so you catch it in a better place. He did that in that particular game I'm referencing against Minnesota. He hasn't done that at all in these 2 games. So let's see what his answer is going to be. And if the change of venue gets him into a different rhythm, because certainly they can't win probably even a game unless
Right.
Kyrie Irving plays significantly better.
What are the ripple effects if he gets going in game 3? What are the ripple effects for Dallas right now? Because Luka, again, has been effective. And I think he realizes he's got to become a scorer a little bit more, although we'll talk about the second half adjustments. But what are the ripple effects if Kyrie goes loose in game 3?
Well, if Kyrie can get loose, what you're now going to have is Boston having to make multiple rotations, multiple effort plays on the same possession. They haven't had to do that a whole lot. They lock in on one guy or the other, and then they just guard those guys really well with an emphasis on trying to stay home in the corners. The lob threat hasn't really been there. Dallas hasn't played fast enough to get anything early before Boston sets up. So I think they've made Boston's life defensively pretty easy in this series. If Kyrie gets going, now you have a totally different scenario with regard to the way the defense has to shift, and you're going to be forced to have multiple guys changing sides of the floor to guard, and that's when you now create some open looks at the 3, or you create an opportunity maybe where one of those big guys can slip to the rim and catch something. With Kyrie being kind of locked up like this by one guy at a time, it just makes it so hard for anything else to be loosened up. That's where it's got to start. Luka hasn't been great by any means, but Luka's done more than enough through 2 games to give their team a chance to get a split. He just hasn't had really anybody carry their weight. I mean, last night, PJ Washington played better, certainly more like the guy that we've seen throughout most of the postseason. Derrick Jones was okay. They're still getting nothing out of their bigs. I don't know why they're playing Kleber this many minutes. I have no idea at this point. He has no confidence in his shooting ability. That's obvious to me. I think you've got to think of something else to eat up those minutes. Josh Green as well. He's not a confident shooter right now. You might have to think of something else. Tim Hardaway Jr. or shorten your rotation. Take some of the less confident players off the floor to a larger extent. I think that would maybe help Dallas out as well.
Let's get into the bigs, because to me, this is the biggest part of it, is the degree to which they have taken away the lob and the corners. But the lob in particular, so you were talking about Lively not catching lobs, but there's other things he can do. He did get to 3 offensive rebounds. I think we mentioned he needs to get 4 or 5, so just a little bit short there on the offensive rebound part of this. Daniel Gafford got 2 of them. But what can these bigs do to make an imprint if the lob is not there? Like, what did you see from them in game 2 that needs to change in game 3?
Well, I even just looked at for game 1, I mentioned Derek Lively. I thought he was out of control defensively with all of his aggressive on ball pressure beyond the 3-point line. The way he was fouling guys indiscriminately. And last night, he just looked like lost defensively. You talk about what they shot at the rim. Jrue Holiday made his first 9 shots in the paint. Well, that's not supposed to happen with Gafford and Lively. Like, regardless, those are play. Like, you've got to make your presence felt. Neither one of those guys have done it. So he just doesn't look like he's in the right place at the right time. He's not a factor offensively if he's not catching the lob, unless he can get to the offensive glass, which, look, they had 9 offensive rebounds. Boston had 10. It's basically a wash there. But they're not getting converted. Even if they're getting offensive rebounds, they're not being converted into points. Like, that's where Lively and Gafford have to be better. A tip in, a catch, come down, gather, go back up and finish. Now, Kristaps Porzingis' length has bothered those guys. Gafford and Lively are like 6'11" and 7 feet, I think, the 2 of them. They look a lot smaller than that when they're next to Kristaps Porzingis. And so that's probably in their head a little bit. And if that's the case, you better figure out a way to go stronger into his body and see if you can force the official to make a call, because you can't go up weakly against him. And I just feel like the front line has been soft. Kleber last night, I don't want to beat him up, but 16 minutes, he doesn't score. No points, 2 rebounds. He had no rebounds in the first game. I mean, you got 35 minutes out of Lively and Kleber last night with 2 points. It just can't happen. Can't happen. You've got to find a way. And for Kleber, it's obviously more like pick and pop situations or transition trail 3 situations. He shot one last night, and I said, oh my goodness. He shot it, landed, and was automatically already running in to chase. And I'm going, that's just a sign of a shooter that has no idea where the ball's going. And that's where he's at right now. He missed a lot of time. and now you're kind of reinserted at the tail end of the last series, but really you're reinserted in the NBA Finals, and you've missed all that time against a really good defensive team. It's just a lot to ask, and I don't know. Look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope next game he makes 4 or 5 threes for his sake. But right now, he doesn't look like a guy that's going to impact this series offensively. So how many minutes you going to run him out there? He's not going to be a factor defensively for you. So what exactly is it you're hoping to get out of those 19 or 20 minutes out of Maxi Kleber? I just think that right now the margin for error has shrunk so much. You might have to do some drastic things in terms of minutes and go into a different place off a couple different guys. Jaden Hardy, Tim Hardaway Jr., somebody that can maybe put the ball in the basket for you.
So when you're making those moves, like the thing about Kleber is at least he can allow some defense, right? Like he's going to be able to, they just seem to guard better with him out there. Lively, traditionally they guard better, but in this specific one where it's such a 5-out game and you have to be out on the perimeter, I'm guessing they're going there. But the question, so you mentioned one, not, reducing Kleber and also playing Tim Hardaway. Those are moves that up your offense those are moves that would up your offense but hurt your defense. Is that a trade-off Dallas needs to try in game 3, is to just, hey, we're not going to win the slugfest. We're going to have to hope that we can outgun them.
Flat out, you've got to unlock your offense. That's the bottom line. Your offense has
been a dangerous game.
Yeah, I know it is. It is. But, I don't look at it like, okay, let's try to button up even more defensively. I don't know that you're going to be able to do that against this team because there's going to be too many breakdowns off the dribble. Because Luka and Kyrie are out there and they're attacking those guys and they're going to continue to attack them. They're going to continue to beat them. They're going to continue to be in the paint. I don't know that, unless you had some options to go there where you could get somebody on your bench that's this elite level ball defender and hasn't played. Okay, you know what? I'm going to try this to see if I can get this guy involved to keep the ball in front a little bit better. That's not what this is going to be. They're going to have to be better offensively than they've been to have a chance. And, at this point, if you're Jason Kidd, I don't know what you're going to do. You're just going to say status quo, keep running guys out there that don't look like they're in the mindset to contribute offensively. It's going to be a short series if they do that.
Boston has taken away runs. Like that. What's the best run Dallas has had through 2 games? It's probably been like a 7. I guess 9-0. Yeah, the very end, and that was like almost a fake run. I'm not trying to take anything away from Dallas, but the game was over. They kind of made some plays to get back into it. But outside of that one run, I don't know if they've had another 7-0 run in the series. And to me, that's kind of what you're talking about, offense versus defense is. I said coming into the series, my head said Celtics. My gut was telling me Mavs because the Luka factor. But Boston is better when they get a little cushion. Now they have a 2-game cushion, and when you don't put a run on them, it never gets uncomfortable. And I just don't think there has been a minute of uncomfortable basketball through 2 games for the Boston Celtics right now, in part because they just seem so capable of slowing Dallas from ever getting a full head of steam.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I'm seeing the same thing. And I think, sometimes it's hard to know what that's going to look like until you actually see it. We both said, or I know certainly I said this, and this is how I felt. To have a chance, you've got to get Boston into a 1-possession game with like 4 minutes left. Yeah. That's when now you now have the advantage because you've got Luka and Luka's ability to play under pressure, what he can do, whether it's as a scorer or finding people to trust them in those situations. He's so good offensively. If you can just get into that moment, they haven't been able to do it. They made the run late last night. You're right. It felt kind of like a false closeness, right? At the end of the game, that game got separated earlier than that. Boston finally started making some threes. Dallas had some really bad turnovers at key times, and it was like 15. And then they make the run, and now lots being made about the breakaway of PJ Washington getting the hand in his back. Was it a foul? It was. If you look, yes. And I didn't see it live at all. I didn't see it till the third replay when they zoomed in on it in super slow-mo and they zoomed in on his hand. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. He got into his upper back. Did it affect his ability to take off? I'm not exactly sure. PJ Washington, I'm sure, would say absolutely it did. I don't know that it did. I'm not like super overheated about that call getting missed because I didn't see it either live. It wasn't going to be something that was reviewed at that time. So there you go. It is what it is. Were they going to win the game? Look, if that game was tied, they were down 1 or down 2, I'd say, you know what, man, that's a big one there because you got a chance to potentially tie the game or take the lead. That's not the case. Even if he makes them, you're still down 3. You're still going to have to get a stop. and then you're going to have to hit a three. That's a lot that's got to go on there in the last X amount of seconds. So I'm not super overheated about that missed call. That run was, I don't know, wasn't indicative really of how close the game was, because I thought Boston separated from them when they had to. So the key is, Adam, can they get them into a situation where like there's a timeout called with 4:18 left in the game and Dallas is in a one possession game, either up to, tied, down to, whatever it may be? You're going to feel a lot better about their chances in that situation because of Luka. They haven't been able to put Boston in that pressure. And if you don't make them feel the pressure, they're going to play like a front-running team when they get a lead, and that's what they're doing right now.
If you had to pick in game 3 for one thing to be different, if it's either Kyrie Irving gets more comfortable and starts to go off, or Gafford and Lively combined make a bigger impact offensively, which one do you think would have a bigger impact on Dallas winning between those two things?
You said Kyrie going off or the Gafford-Lively combination?
Correct.
I definitely think Kyrie. It's got to be Kyrie. You know, his upside and what he is capable of and what we have seen is special. And it's going to, that alone, I think, would loosen up things for some of those other guys.
It would lead to the other one. Yeah.
Right. That'll organically lead to more opportunities, I think, for some of those guys to dive or to get something off the offensive glass, because of now the defense is reacting to two different guys. Right now, they're playing Kyrie pretty much with one guy, and they're getting away with it. And Kyrie is so special offensively. He is capable of it. I just think it's going to take a very aggressive and successful first quarter. You know, it could work the other way. You know, he comes out and goes 1 for 6. Now, man, you might really start to be in his head. He comes out, goes 5 for 7 in the first quarter with a 3, a couple of free throws, and he's got a 15-point quarter working. The whole night could be different for him and their team. And I think that, you know, it's just tough when you have a guy that good offensively that's playing that far below like what he's capable of for the rest of your team. It's demoralizing to your team because you don't have a bunch of guys that you can say, well, let's just get more out of him or him or him or him. They don't have that kind of roster. It's built around these two guys, and then everybody has a lane they stay in. Well, if Kyrie's not occupying people and making defenses aware, those lanes that those guys want to occupy are very crowded. There's a lot of traffic in those lanes for those guys if Kyrie is not making people pay.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's take a break. We spent a lot of time on Dallas. We got to give some love on the other side to the Celtics, who have just impressed me so much in 2 games. And Tatum, Jrue, Brown, all those guys have interesting things to discuss. And also Porzingis may be out for game 3. That would be a huge difference. We'll talk about that on the other side. First, want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. Get ready for this summer season with quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style or styles. Buy multiple pairs of different styles so you have something to go with every day of the week. They probably have a style of your favorite team's colors, too, if that's the direction you want to go. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35. Use our code. Every time you go to one of these partners, use our code AC35 to get 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Also want to tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. We might end the NBA season this week. Sadly, it could end as early as this week. With the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you are a Mavs faithful, here's the silver lining to being down 0-2. The odds you can get for the Mavs to now win the championship are really juicy. So if you're really feeling it, if you have a lot of faith in your team coming back home and shifting this series, now is the time to make the bet. You can also make same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more so you don't miss out on any of the bets available to you. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check out their new deal. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that code ALLNBA. That's code ALLNBA for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/bball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
All right, back here on the All NBA Show. If you're new to the show, hit that subscribe button. We're doing this 4 times a week. We'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we're covering all the games happening this week. Legs, we could start a bunch of different places for Boston because they're getting contributions from basically all of their guys. But I actually want to start with Tatum because I thought his game was very fascinating. 18 points, 9 rebounds, 12 assists, 1 steal, 6 of 22 shooting. He, for some reason, cannot find his shot in the series. I thought he was bad in the first quarter, and I was thinking, oh my God, here we go again. Another game where he's struggling. But I thought he adjusted so nicely in this game to becoming a great. We talked about Anthony Edwards, and when teams are starting to trap you and put you in tough spots, how do you bend the defense now? How do you use that against the defense so that you're opening things up? I thought this was one of the best games I've ever seen from him in that regard. Shots, he didn't make shots even in the second, third, and fourth quarter, but I thought he bent the defense and made reads incredibly well, and it was one of the main reasons the Celtics won this game. What did you make of his game, and how do you analyze? Yes, he's shooting poorly, but how do you analyze the rest of his game?
I agree. I thought he was so smart and patient. He if he just could have converted, he probably had 3 or 4 shots in the paint at the rim that he normally finishes. He gets those to go, and he's 10 for 22. It's still not a great shooting night, but it's closer to 50%. And that's probably going to put him at about a 25 and 12 type game. It's a totally different tone today. He just couldn't get it to drop. Now, is that because he's pressing because of the narrative around him? Yeah, there's probably some truth in that. And he's not as relaxed as he wants to be. But just looking at the way he processed the floor and what needed to happen offensively, I just thought he played a really smart, efficient game in that way and made the plays that needed to be had. And his defensive rebounding, by the way, is such a bonus. And I've talked about it a lot with him. I'm so impressed with a guy that's a small forward that rebounds the ball the way that he does and helps finish off their defensive possessions. And some of those rebounds last night were grown man going up in traffic with Dallas's centers trying to get the offensive rebound, and Tatum came down with it, snatched it, ripped it away, and got the ball to a guard, and here we go up the floor, as opposed to Dallas, getting an opportunity maybe to have a second chance where it's kick out, Luka, Kyrie get involved. Those are big plays, and I thought Tatum had a number of those. His defense is always conscientious and, purposeful with what he does defensively. He doesn't take plays off. He doesn't, just carelessly get blown by because he's lazy. He's always competing defensively. He doesn't run from challenges. So I thought overall he played a really solid game. He just didn't shoot the ball well. And like this morning, I did a bunch of segments about him because, everybody's just so fascinated with like him and his legacy and what this means. And is he going to be finals MVP? And, another bad shooting night. What does that say about him? And where does he rank in the league? And like all this stuff. And I'm going, they had a fill in the blank for me, a segment. Jayson Tatum's finals. Jayson Tatum in the finals has been blank. And here's how I filled that in. A cog in the machine. That's what he's been. That's what he's been.
That's great.
I think that's, to me, the way that I'm interpreting this, man. He's contributed. He's doing his part. He hasn't shot well, but this team is bigger than that for Jayson Tatum. It didn't feel like it was bigger than that the last time he was in this situation. Man. It felt like he had to do it. He has to get them through it. He doesn't now, and the last 2 games are proof of that. So you got to admire his all-around game. And then if he ever just can break out of this and have a couple of really good shooting games, like if he does that in Dallas and they sweep and he has a couple of 25 to 30-point games, it's going to make people feel a lot better about Jayson Tatum's finals performance. But I'm admiring the way he is playing and the fact that they're relying on each other and trusting each other so much, and there's so much help across the board. The margin for error is much greater for him. And that's a good thing for Jayson Tatum overall.
First of all, I love your word choice there. I love a cog in the machine, because here's what's funny about that, Legs. To some people, that's an insult. What was he? He was a cog in the machine of something greater, not a great player, a cog in the machine. I actually think one of the most impressive things about Jayson Tatum this year is how willing he has been to become a cog in the machine. And last night to me was the ultimate example of that, from based on what I've seen of Tatum's season. Steph Curry has one finals MVP. Everybody always makes the big deal about this, such a talking point, what have you. Nobody ever talks about that with Steph. You know why? He has 4 championships, and he's clearly one of the best players of all time, that it's beneath him to try to say, oh, well, there were times when Steph was a cog in the machine. He was the machine, but he would say, okay, they're going to guard me this way. I'm going to open things up for everybody. I just thought last night was the ultimate. And by the way, the table setting for Tatum was there. Jason Kidd, Brown's their best player. Kyrie, he's the best player for sure over there. Like, there was so much table setting of Tatum, you're nothing more than a cog in the machine. And he took that and said, yep, and I'm going to make this machine hum in game 2. And that's why I'm actually more impressed when a player can do the things that aren't sexy to help their team win. And that's what he did last night, in my opinion. I actually was very impressed with Tatum in game 2.
And I'm also just impressed with the way he handles questions and this narrative. You know how old this must get to Jayson Tatum. And nobody wants to have these breakout shooting and scoring performances, in the context of flow more than Jayson Tatum. He doesn't want to play like certain guys can play in this league, where he's just all about just going and getting numbers. And that's how he feels like he did his work that night. He'd love for that to happen. Look, he took 22 shots last night, more than any other player in the game. He took more shots than Luka took. It didn't feel like he was forcing anything. Did you think? I didn't feel like
in the first quarter I did. In the first quarter, I actually
early
did.
In the game?
Early in the game, yeah.
And if there's going to be a time, maybe that would be the time. You're probably right. There's probably a couple in that quarter. Because again, he feels it too. Like, I want to get going.
Yeah.
I want to get going. But not at the expense of the way we need to play to win a championship. And I think that's where he found that great balance over the rest of the game. And he just wasn't able to convert mainly the drives. Like the jump shots, those are always going to be a little bit more fickle. He had some great opportunities where he made really strong moves to the rim, put it up softly on the glass, and it just hit rim, rolled around a little bit, and came off. He had several of those, or his entire night looks different statistically. And then it's not even a talking point today. So it's going to continue to be. It will be talked about for the next 72 hours until they play again, about Jayson Tatum and his offensive struggles. And I think he's handling it pretty well overall, because they are on the threshold of doing something that all great players in this league really need when you start talking legacy, and that is a championship. And he's very close to checking that box.
The Jrue Holiday is the next guy I want to talk about with you, because he was unbelievable in this game. 11 of 14 shooting, 26 points, 11 rebounds from the guard spot, 3 assists, a steal, and a block. He did everything. I think it's funny. We talk about MVPs. Jaylen Brown was the MVP of game 1. I think Jrue Holiday was the MVP of game 2. His defense has been great in both games. He makes big plays, including even on Luka, switching out onto him and doing a very good job. But offensively, his ability to get to the rim in this one, they're playing him in the dunker a lot. He moves around. He'll play at the baseline, then rotate to the top of the key, then catch and drive. There's a lot of movement to his game on the offensive end. But his ability to get to the rim and finish 11 of 14 is crazy. That was a great two-way performance from him. What did you see?
Yeah, I agree. And look, he got a couple out of the dunker spot, but he had 4 other drives in the game where he scored, where he caught the ball beyond the 3-point line and quickly processed the fact that there was a driving gap, and he was super patient at the end of those drives with a little Euro step action to go around the shot blocker. So they mistimed their jump. And then he shoots what looks like an uncontested, easy little finger roll over the front of the rim. That wouldn't have been if he had shot like off the first step, where now these guys are going up there trying to get it. He was just smart and so patient once he got in there, take that extra step, get on balance, get to the other side of the rim, and lay the ball in. So I thought on a night when no one shot the ball well from the perimeter, and it was just a rough night for both teams, the fact that he was able to take advantage of those swing passes and getting quickly into the lane all the way to the rim and finishing those just really broke down Dallas's defense repeatedly. And that's the one they probably weren't, figuring they were going to have to deal with that. Like Jrue Holiday made 9 consecutive shots in the lane, 9 straight out of a guard. You're thinking half of those probably normally would have been 3-point attempts out of Jrue Holiday, contested or not contested. He wasn't settling for that shot because he saw something there, and he could use his physicality and his smarts at the end of those drives to get to the opposite side. Because it's not like he's going up over people, Adam, and dunking on people like Jaylen Brown can. He's got to go around guys down there and get crafty, and he did it several times and converted. And it's demoralizing for Dallas when a guard is driving the ball down, your teeth and laying the ball in when you thought you had a fairly decent possession going defensively.
He to me was indicative of the Celtics' game plan. And I love the play you're talking about. I think there were a couple of them, but there's one in my head. He catches it in the corner. I think it was like the second or third drive of the game. He catches it in the corner, hard closeout, shot fake, takes a dribble. And I think 80, maybe 90% of NBA players, that's shot fake, one dribble, about a 10, 15-foot pull-up jumper. Yeah. And it was so clear that the Celtics in this game wanted to get to the rim and had faith that the game plan was going to allow for them to get to the rim. So that shot, shot fake, dribble, Euro steps past the second line of defense and gets that soft layup. And Legs, pull up the shot chart here, Emma. I just sent it to you. Look, this is Jrue Holiday's shot chart. He had 14 shots. 4 of them were outside the restricted area. 4 of them, 10 shots in the restricted area. That's how you shoot of 11-14. And again, to me, as good as he was at doing that, that is a deliberate choice. That is a team knowing what they're trying to do. Get to the rim. It's going to be open based on how we're going to attack them. And he executed it so perfectly. Look at that shot chart, Legs.
It's a beautiful thing. Really smart game, super efficient game. Again, Boston shoots 45% overall. He goes 11 for 14. Helps that number out dramatically. And again, it's those situations where you're getting a dribble drive to the rim, or you're getting a slash to the rim, or a couple times you just sort of hung around the baseline or in the lane, and they found him because there was two guys going to the ball on a baseline drive, and he just found himself walking into a layup. It's just tough because it collapses your defense to an extent that you got to take the ball to the net again and again and again. Because of where he was scoring from, it doesn't give you a chance even to do anything in terms of getting up the floor. He played great, man. And so you're right. He was the best player on the floor last night for Boston. I thought game 1 it was Jaylen Brown. I think overall in this series, looking at the 2 games combined, I think Jaylen Brown to me would have a slight edge over Jrue Holiday, probably for the best player in this series. And that doesn't bode well. Luka's, put up numbers, but when you're 0-2, you're not going to have consideration for like a Finals MVP or something like that. This has been spread out. Porzingis has been great. He had an incredible first game. Tatum, we just talked about, hasn't shot well, but has played really well in other areas of the game. So it's been what Boston was put together to do: share the load and give so much versatility on both ends to other teams to look at, that nobody's got enough answers for them. And right now, that's how it looks like it's going to play out, unless Dallas has a dramatic change for some of the guys on their team when they get back to Dallas.
Honestly, the Finals MVP, the conversation is kind of funny to me, because you typically it is a really great storyline, but the story for me of the Finals so far is how well the Celtics are playing together. At this moment, you almost want to do the corny 2015 Hawks thing. Do you remember when the Hawks starting 5 was the player of the month? Corny. I almost feel like you could go like, you know what? The Finals MVP is the team. They've done this thing, and it honestly kind of feels that way. Let's talk about Porzingis real quick. Only 23 minutes in this game. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks. Stat line wasn't necessarily impressive, but his impact in the series has just been insane. But, Legs, he didn't play a lot, and there's some talk about maybe he might not be available for a game 3. To me, if you want to start the story of how does Dallas get back into it, well, that would be a huge first piece. If Porzingis, for whatever reason, is not able to play or is hobbled and is only playing 20 minutes or so, that's his max. That's the step 1 because of what a big impact he is making in this series, both ends of the floor.
Yeah, listen, we're going to see. There's been reporting that after the game, he was kind of just out on the court, hanging out with family and friends and doing all that. If you had a situation where you really were concerned that he had really injured himself, right? I mean, he's going to that's probably not going to be the scene you're going to get. You're going to be there's going to be a lot more concern there. He said flat out, "I'm playing no matter what. You'd have to kill me to keep me off the court," which is probably how he should feel with the amount of time he's missed recently. And he said how hard that was to sit there and watch it. He finally makes it back. I don't know what it would take to get Kristaps Porzingis out of the lineup this time. It's something to look at because there's two different scenarios. One is he doesn't play. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. The second one is he's limited in some way. Like he's not as impactful. And I actually think the defensive impact and the length and the size, the look that he is giving to Dallas has even been has had a greater impact in this series than even what he's done offensively. And so if he's limited with his mobility and he's not quite able to cover as much ground or to show on the guard and then backpedal so he could take away the lob or to get there and actually, block a shot at the rim, that would be a big deal if he's limited in any way. So I guess we got to sit back. That's a long time between games. We'll see what it looks like, but it didn't sound like there was a whole lot of concern coming out of the Boston Celtics camp or from Kristaps Porzingis, really, that this was anything that was going to be too serious. I believe he's getting an MRI today. So we'll see if there's more word on that later.
Is there an unsung hero on the Celtics roster? Is there somebody kind of flying under the radar that's making a big impact? Kind of feel like it's loud all across the board.
Yeah, well, listen, Derrick White, 18 points, 4 threes last night. He had 4 of their 10 threes. He's just so solid every night, but he hasn't been great. Like none of these guys have been great so far. Like sometimes you get into a series, like the same guy is great every night or a couple of guys. That hasn't been the case for Boston. Porzingis was great with his impact in the first game. Jaylen Brown was great with his impact overall. Jrue Holiday was great last night. But it's just been a bunch of guys like playing well. And when you do it with that many different guys at the same time, and you have that many guys underperforming for Dallas, this is what you get, man. 2-0, it feels more than that for some reason. Here's the other thing I said last night. Dallas was down 3 at halftime, and they missed, 6 free throws in the first half. There was opportunities with open looks they had from the 3-point line that didn't go down. And I'm saying, well, okay, so this is weird to me because they're down 3. There's a lot of easy stuff that they didn't convert. And I still feel like they're holding on for dear life right now.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like to me. And it was a matter of time before Boston was able to put their own offensive run together and start stringing together some shot making. And quickly it went to 15, just like the last game. Luka went on that run. They cut it to 8. There's a timeout. It looks like it's going to get interesting. It was 20 in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So I said last night when I sat down and watched the game, Adam, I sat down with all the guys from SVP, and I said, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I'm about to watch right now because I just don't know how much is Dallas going to clean up against this team. Who's going to step up for them? And then, of course, the one thing I was counting on was Kyrie to play better, and that didn't happen either. So I think the odds are got to be strong. I don't know what Kyrie's over number is for a prop bet in game 3. I don't know what that number is.
Emma, look it up for us. Let us know what it is. We could find this on
that up, but I don't know about you, Adam. I'm guessing that number probably is going to be like 21.5 or something. I would take the over, I think, on Kyrie Irving right now. Yeah. Is he really going to have 3 games under 20 points in a row? I don't know, man. If he does, then this is really more about Boston than anything. I still think the guy's so great. I'm giving him a little bit of benefit of the doubt that he can shake free with his talent.
Emma, so it looks like she's telling me 23.5 for Kyrie. That's a little higher than I expected. So I think the Vegas is also expecting this bump, that he's going to have a bit of a better scoring output in game 3, which is obviously a big part of the hope for the Mavs. The last thing I'll say, you were saying that it felt like Dallas was holding on for dear life. And I agree. That's the best way to describe this game. Because you're right. It was a 3-point game going into the half. And by the way, some things went Boston's way. Pritchard hits that heave, there were some things that were going their way. But when you watch the game, Dallas felt like they had to perform miracles to get a stop and had to perform miracles to score. And Boston kind of felt like they were getting what they wanted. So however close the game was, one side felt easy. And I'll tell you what, there weren't a lot of offensive rebounds for Boston, 10 in the game. All of them felt like backbreakers because of how hard Dallas was having to work to scramble, that you would watch them work for 20 seconds to try to stop somebody on defense, long rebound, reset possession. And it just felt like it sucked the life out of Dallas every time it happened. And that's why I think it felt the way it did. 7-point game. But to me, this series does not feel close so far with how much in control Boston has been with most aspects of the game.
And there's one more thing we haven't talked about that also has to change for Dallas. Luka had 8 turnovers last night. And the thing is, you can live like the play I described earlier when he threw the ball 50, 60 feet ahead to Lively because he had a guard back there with him up the floor. And he thought, I'm just going to throw it up here, go make a play for me. Like a quarterback throwing it to like a 6'5" receiver, right, against a smaller cornerback. Like that's what it felt like. And Lively fumbles the ball, goes right through his hands. That's an error or a turnover of commission. I'm okay with those. I felt like 5 or 6 of those from Luka were not that. He got one time, it was very bizarre to me. He's dribbling up the floor. He looks over his shoulder. He can see there was a defender sort of in front of him. And he was looking over his shoulder to look at the defender that was chasing him from behind. It was like an early transition situation. He looked right at the defender and then switched the ball to the hand that the defender was running up on that side, and he just knocked the ball away from behind. Very strange play, like far below Luka's IQ and his level. Couple of the passes that he threw once he got downhill, got down toward the baseline and kind of come to a jump stop. He had a travel. He had 2 passes that he threw wildly like behind his head that weren't going anywhere. Those aren't errors of commission, right? Those are different. Those aren't going to lead anywhere, even if that pass is completed. So, and then he threw one behind the back, if you remember, going into the
over
corner.
the head.
He threw one behind his back as he was going into the corner with Tatum. He dragged 2, and Tatum just read it. He saw him go behind his back, and Tatum stuck his arm out and deflected it, picked it up, went the other direction. The one that's not his fault that people are beating him up about is the play where they were going to get basically about to get an 8-second violation. It was an 8-point game, 4 minutes to go. Derrick Jones was or PJ Washington, one of them was getting bottled up trying to handle the ball. It gets deflected. It goes into the backcourt. It hadn't crossed half court yet. So Luka runs it down and just turns and fires it up the court because it's going to be an 8-second violation. They steal it, and that leads to a Holiday 3. That made it 11. It felt like an enormous play. Like you've got the ball down 8. You got a chance to get it to 6 or 5, and now it's 11 because you can't get the ball over half court in 8 seconds. So he contributed part of that. But my point is there's just too much of that was loose on the part of Luka Doncic. He referenced it. He took accountability for it. I don't know that he believes he's fully to blame, like he said. That's ridiculous. But he trying to be a leader. Like, man, it's on me. I missed shots. I had turnovers. I got to do better. Fine. You're right about turnovers because there were 4 or 5 that are just egregious. They're bad. They're not going anywhere. There's nothing to be had out of that. You got to be stronger with the ball against a team like Boston. So Luka, that's another thing. We haven't talked about that yet. I just wanted to mention that he's got to clean that up, man. That number's got to be 3 or 4. And all of those should be ones where he's trying to make a lob play or he's trying to hit a guy on a back cut or throw the ball ahead where the reward is a score. The risk reward on some of his turnovers was non-existent in terms of the reward. A lot of risk, 0 reward on some of those passes or deflections. He's got to be better with the basketball.
What about fatigue? Because whenever a guy is turning it over a lot, and look, he's got an enormous load he's carrying on offense. Defensively, they're trying to put him in a ton of actions. I don't think he's actually been that great defensively because I think he's wearing down. So 8 turnovers to me screams fatigue.
No, look, how could he not be? How could he not be somewhat tired, right? The number of different guys that are guarding him, they're all really good defenders. It's
no breaks.
It's a lot, right? It's I don't really blame him for the fatigue factor. So yeah,
this is why you need Kyrie to steal some possessions for him.
To it. Yeah, right, exactly. That's the other thing. Like, you haven't seen as many situations even in the last 2 games where I know Luka during the season and earlier in the playoffs, he'd go 3-4 possessions in a row at times and do the wave thing, take
get a little break on the court,
and he would kind of jog up the opposite side of the floor, right? It's like Kyrie now, go get into some action and go. Maybe because Kyrie doesn't have that look right now. I felt like there was less of that the last couple of games, and that's going to also contribute to being worn down a little bit. Excuse me if you're Luka.
On tomorrow's show, we're going to look at some adjustments and some things. We'll also take a mailbag questions from some people covering this series for Dallas and for Boston. But for now, let's get to the Super Chats. Emma, we just broke down game 2. Psycho Blue, always a Super Chatter, says, Boston shot like stormtroopers and still won. I think that was Dallas's best chance to win. I don't see Boston bricking that much again. Look, you go on the road. It's always a little bit tougher on the road. Maybe you get a boost. I definitely think the Celtics are winning this series, but series can change. We saw this with Boston, by the way, 2 or 3 years ago, win the first 2 games and then fall the rest of the series. So it's still possible, Legs. What do you think?
Look, I think sometimes it is hard to make definitive conclusions before a team has played a home game in a series.
Yeah.
Because I just think Dallas, they can play a lot better offensively than they've played. Maybe going home will be what unlocks that. I think a lot of people felt like Giannis's first when he was close to winning a title against the Toronto Raptors and they were up 2-0, and you think like this is a wrap, and they lose 4 straight games because Toronto goes home and wins. So you've got to wait until you see Dallas's best punch. You didn't see that last night. They might not come. Look, Boston might go in there to Dallas and be even better. Maybe they're even more relaxed on the road shooting the basketball because there's not as much pressure in the building. Who knows? But I know this. It's hard to definitively, come to the conclusion that Dallas won't win a game or something like that until you see them go home. And what does that affect? What effect does that crowd have on them? How much better will some of those role players play at home, which is very common in the playoffs for role players to be more comfortable in their own building. So let's see. Let's see what their response is going to be. And I think I said, you'll have a pretty good idea, I think, by halftime, how this is looking, how this is going. Key is get Boston in a tight game. Dallas has not been able to do it yet, where Boston had meaningful possessions coming up the floor with 2 or 3 minutes to go, like where the game is really hanging in the balance. That's when I think Dallas has the advantage. It's going to be imperative that they get that Boston into that situation in game 3.
What else we got, Emma? Carlos Hernandez says, do you guys think the pressure is hitting the Mavs role players? They missed some wide open threes that they usually hit, and free throws hurt us again. Free throws, actually, we haven't discussed, has been a storyline. Do you think that's part of it? They haven't been there before.
I think some guys, I think Josh Green looks affected. I think Derek Lively looks affected. I think those 2 guys would jump out to me more than any other. PJ Washington didn't look great the first game shooting the ball. He didn't look super comfortable. He played well last night. He was 6 for 13, only 1 for 5 on threes, but he had some really nice aggressive drives. He looked comfortable. He looked like he felt like this was just another basketball game. That's not how some of these, Kleba absolutely looks rattled. He does not look like he has any idea where the ball is going when it comes off his hand. So those would be the 3, but he's not really like a super young player. He's been around. But of the younger guys, I think Lively and Green are the 2 guys that they don't look very confident right now.
Green had an open 3 on the right wing early in this game when some of the wheels were starting to come off, and I knew it was out. Like before the ball even arrived at him, you're like, well, he's not making that for sure. So I might agree with you. Joshua Boraz says, if Boston wins, will Jrue and White be in the conversation for best defensive backcourt ever? Or did we overrate Kyrie and Luka? There's a little tongue-in-cheek, right? Best backcourt of all time. A series ago, we were calling Kyrie and Luka, and now it's being shut down a little bit. So I think this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but you know what? It's a hell of a defensive backcourt.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the point of the question is that Luka and Kyrie are overrated offensively.
I think that was the subtext of the question, yes.
Yeah, and I'm going, well, if those are my 2 choices, I can tell you right now, Luka and Kyrie are not overrated offensively, okay? Yeah. So Holiday and White, I think that, yes, their names will come up. And now look, Jrue Holiday, I said it the other day, like there's not a lot of guys that have been starting point guards on multiple championship teams. There's not a long list of those guys. Like Jrue Holiday is going to be looked at as this guy's a winner. Like if they pull this off and he plays as well as he's played and he's had this kind of impact on both ends, you're just going to look at this guy in a different light. I think, man, this guy's just a winner. He makes you better the day he shows up. Everything about him and his approach has helped their team. And so he and Derrick White paired together. Yeah. Now, their names don't carry that superstar weight that like these conversations would come up and you're immediately going to think of Jrue Holiday and Derrick White 20 years from now. But I think it's a fair thing to say that this is one of the better defensive backcourts we have seen.
Totally. All right, what else we got? Smooth Slide says, I'm a Boston bandwagoner, but I still want a series, and I'm scared. It looks and seems lopsided. Not even a close game for a Luka Kyrie finish.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. That's kind of how it feels right now.
Sums it up. I think you should be scared right now. I think anybody in Dallas should be a little bit scared because you're not sure if this is going to turn around for them and they're going to start really cooking offensively. Like you made a great point, Adam. They haven't really gone on like a significant run. The end of last night, which didn't feel like really, it just felt a little bit overblown. Like they ended that game that this, they made it that close. You're right. Boston is not allowing them to string together baskets. And that's what I think Dallas fans are waiting to see, man. Give me a 10-0 run, a 12-0 run. And especially if they do that at home, that place is going to blow the lid off that arena. That's going to be big for them. To this point, they haven't done it. So that's why I think that you have justification to be a little bit scared because you just haven't seen any sort of outburst offensively out of the team collectively.
We got one more coming late here, Emma. Is that what I see? Dane says, why did the Timberwolves not cross-match bigs? Also, it's frustrating that Dallas guards and forwards cannot hit threes anywhere outside of the corners, outside the corner. Look, part of this is you have to credit Boston and what they're doing. Boston has had a smart game plan. So cross-matching bigs, I don't know. Is that a big deal to you?
No, I don't think that's a big factor. It's a bigger factor that Dallas isn't getting shots from their normal spots. I saw the number going into this series. They had averaged 5 made corner threes a game.
Yep.
And they had averaged 4 lob dunk conversions. Okay. They've had 2 of each in this series.
That's
2.
crazy. That's crazy.
That you think about what I'm saying here. That's 15 points a game out of the corner threes. That's 30 points right there. They've had 6. Yeah. That's a 24-point drop off that one shot. We're averaging 4 made dunks. That's 8. That's 16 points they would have had to this point. They've had 4. So they're a minus 12 in the lob dunk. They're a minus 24 in the corner three. That's the extent to which this team is now operating offensively and how different it is for them. That is what this is all about for Dallas. And if they can't get those corner threes, they better find another area to floor that they're going to get some. And that's what Jason Kidd gets paid a lot of money to figure out.
Cue that outro music, Emma. I am just so incredibly impressed with the Boston Celtics. They've been fun to watch. I love seeing a team.
Yeah,
I love a team. Like a team win, and they have 2 team wins to me. Guys have stepped up and made shots, they've made plays, but it's collective for me with this Boston team, and I'm just so impressed. Any final thoughts, Legs?
No, man. That's just, I think all of us would like to see a good fight here out of Dallas just to make it more interesting, and let's see, man. So we got time. We got a few days. Now we go and we get on the Danny Hurley watch out of the rest of the day. Let's see what Danny Hurley's going to do, right? That's what we're all waiting to see. The Woj bomb to drop. When is the Woj bomb going to drop? And let us know what Danny Hurley's about to do.
Well, I'm just thankful that he didn't do it 30 minutes before tip-off. It was our last Woj bomb. You know what? Save it for an off day. I appreciate that, Danny Hurley of the Lakers. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget, subscribe for us. Get us up to 20,000 before the series ends. Hit that like button on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow.
All city like the mayor.